Hello there, guys, and welcome back to my channel for our live reactions and player ratings live stream following Chelsea 5, West Ham United 0. What on earth is happening? Where on earth are these things coming from? I can't believe it. Poch-Ball looked like absolute magic today. What? I'm baffled. I don't know how this has happened, but it's happening. So I'll take it. I mean, obviously West Ham hit the bar 3 times, and if they score the one time at 1-0. God knows what else happens in the game. But hey, today was our day. We've many times this season, it wasn't our day, and we played better than the result kind of suggested in hindsight. Today, I'm not saying the result was better than the performance, not by any means, but I'm saying if things go a bit less in our way, the game might go differently. But the way it went, it was utterly fantastic. We scored multiple brilliant goals. We attacked wonderfully. It looked like we had passing and attacking patterns all of a sudden. Cucurella looks like he's the best DM the world has ever seen. It's unbelievable. Caicedo looked absolutely brilliant today. Madueke, Palmer, Jackson. I mean, the link-up was unbelievable. Honestly, what a day. What a day. I could not be happier with that today. Honestly, absolutely brilliant. Just a shame that Nkunku or something couldn't get a goal late on in the second half. But at the end of the day, we were 3-0 up before half-time. And we made it 4 just after the break as well. Like, it doesn't go any better than that. Dimitar, I'll go with you first. Thank you for coming back on. I appreciate it as always. My days. I put it on Twitter as well. If we play the last few games of the season like this as well, I might have to apologize to Poch and say, all right, boy, it took you a bit too long, but otherwise, I am, if we do this, I mean, let's not get ahead of ourselves. There's every chance we lose the next game. But, hey, maybe we play like this all the time now. And that would be brilliant. We'll get to Jamie later, who's less of a fan of Poch than you are, Dimitar. But I think you got to be buzzing today, surely.
Well, yeah, I mean, not only because I think finally something that he did tactically can now be seen from everyone and they can appreciate it. I think that's great. But also, I think the individual performances of people are starting to get to the level which we want from them. Even Cucurella, we are praising him so much and it's deserved, but we have to remember we paid like, 60 million for him. So when we bought him, I think maybe the board and the manager at that time, they were expecting to see versatility. They were expecting to see tenacity. They were expecting to see such a level from him. Maybe not in the CDM role, but for sure, these players are starting to deliver. And I think this is the best thing that could have happened for Chelsea, because we all knew that even when we were winning games prior in this season, it was not the best performances at most times, and even sometimes here we were winning 4-0 on these streams and we were struggling to give some players more than a 7 in ratings. But after the Villa second half, and even if we can count the 6-0 against Everton, I think a lot of people have raised their game, which is, like I said, very well for the future of the club, regardless of who the manager is. Because like I said in our group chat, I'm not sure still that Poch stays for next season, because the board are so unpredictable and they could do anything from now until July. So we'll just have to see.
We will just have to see. Pius has just tweeted something very interesting.
Yeah, I also saw that.
I'll bring that up in just a second. I will get Jamie's initial thoughts. Bro, first of all, I know from seeing your tweets and stuff and talking to you every now and again, I know you're not a big fan of Poch, but where do you stand on, well, in particular today, obviously, because that's what we're here to talk about, but I guess the last few games, because, I mean, I am also part in a camp where I'm like, this is amazing, but why is it taking you 8 months to figure it out? But at the same time, I'm like, better late than never, you know? Other managers never figure it out. He's, at least for the time being, seems to have figured something out. I do have a bit of a question now that Gusto is back, how we're going to do the Cucurella midfield thing, because unless Gusto plays instead of Madueke, the whole Cucurella midfield thing kind of only really works if you have 3 centre-backs, or at least like someone like Reece James, a fullback that can play centre-back. That's not really Gusto. So I'm not really sure how that's going to go. But for now, I am very happy about it. Where do you stand on it, Jamie?
Well, just with the Gusto thing, I think, yeah, you have to keep the same structure, but I think he could do the Cucurella role as well. He's very aggressive. He's very technical in pockets as well, as we've seen.
Yeah, no, I agree. He could do the Cucurella role, but would you want to replace Cucurella at this point?
No. Just as a rotation, maybe. He could maybe fill the Chalobah role and just play slightly deeper, but that role is a lot more about timing your runs and going forward at the right time. It's not, you're mainly structuring as a 3 to protect, but you can still get forward. It's just about timing the overlaps later on in the sequence of play. rather than hugging the touchline like he has done all season. But yeah, I agree with you. The whole structure change has been to keep Madueke and Madueke, keep the danger men wide, and that's where all our attacks are really coming from, especially Madueke, who's been super, super impressive.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I will keep it short, and I will quickly go to those tweets that I've been talking about from Pice, because David Ornstein has come out and said Chelsea are demanding that Mauricio Pochettino finishes in a Europa League position, not just Europe anymore. All of a sudden, it's specified to Europa League, which it probably was Europa League all along, but it's just, again, poor journalism. Why have they said Europe until now? It's not like they couldn't have figured that out if they tried. But anyway, but arguably even more interesting than that, because on the one hand, it's like, why is it now all of a sudden Europa League when it's been Europe all season? Well, not all season, but for the last 4 months. But at the same time, I think that it should be, as in, not that I'm saying we should definitely get Europa League from here on out, but I think the minimum requirement should be Europa League in a way. But obviously, I've always said this, I think it's a bit silly to like judge whether a manager should stay or should leave on the basis of, say, one cup final, where you can get a bit unlucky, you can get lucky. Like, we could have won that final, even though Poch did a lot of things wrong. Like, that could have also happened. So it makes no sense to base him staying or not staying on a final or on one league position. Because that one league position could be down to him, but it may also not be. So I feel like it should be looked at from a much broader picture than just like, okay, either you finish 6th or you finish 7th, or either you stay or you leave. Like, I just find that a bit silly from the get-go, if I'm being perfectly honest. But hey, David Ornstein also said managers who will certainly not be taking over Chelsea if a position becomes available: Ruben Amorim, Hansi Flick, Jose Mourinho, Antonio Conte. Now, if Lee is in the chat, well, the Antonio Conte rumor is dead. But anyone with a brain never, always knew that wasn't happening. Same with Jose, realistically. Hansi Flick, I guess there was a few people speaking. He's been at a few Chelsea games this season as well. And Ruben Amorim, just 2 or 3 days ago, there was talk if Chelsea approached him, he would be happy to talk to us. And now all of a sudden, it will definitely not be Amorim. So again, I've been a little bit confused how we've come to this situation. But like the bottom tweet says, Chelsea are demanding that Mauricio Pochettino finishes in a Europa League position. The thing is, after beating Spurs, that is very much possible. Like, Man United play Crystal Palace on Monday. In my opinion, there's every chance Crystal Palace at least get something out of that game. And if that happens, we are essentially, it's in our own hands to come 6th, right? Which is a bit crazy, but it would be. And United and Newcastle still play each other, who are the 2 teams ahead of us. Sorry, what did you say?
Yeah, they play Newcastle, don't they? I was just going to say that.
Yeah, they play Newcastle the week after, and then tomorrow they play Palace. So yeah, it's a bit of a crazy one. Dimitar, I'll go with you first. First of all, what do you think about what we can see on screen at the moment? Like, demanding Europa League, but also these 4 names that are apparently definitely not coming. Jose and Conte aren't particularly surprising here. Amorim is, in my opinion. Flick was kind of where I'm like, I didn't really want him, but I would have expected him to be on our list, if that makes sense. So where do you stand on it?
First of all, on the Europa League, I also find it logical that was the requirement all along, because no one wants to play in the Conference League, first of all, and second, the sponsorship deals are probably much better in the Europa League, just because the level of competition is better. And as we know, with our board, they have a fixation with money, and they should after they spend so much. So on that front, I think it was expectable. The thing is, if we miss out on Europa League, and if we continue playing like this, would it be justifiable to sack Poch because of that? Absolutely not. Also, if we had reached Europa League and we were playing awful, would it be justifiable to keep him? As well, no. So, as you said, this situation is very complicated, and people should try to use their brains logically to analyze the results that a manager has done. I am not sure that our board and the management team have that brain capacity to make the difference between just reaching an objective and playing better or improvement in general. So, like I said, like 10 minutes ago, we're going to have to see what happens there. And for the managers, it's no big surprise for Conte and Mourinho, because as we know, they get along very well with board structures above them, and they like to leave all of the power to the board, and they do not want any of it. So they would be Of course, I'm joking. So yeah, these managers would not fit this management structure, and I guess for Hansi Flick, maybe that could be the case because from what we know from him at Bayern, he's very strict. He likes to have control, and he likes to have final decisions on a lot of things. Maybe not as much as a Guardiola or Klopp do, but he is an authoritarian figure for sure. So for him, yeah, not such a surprise. As far as Ruben Amorim goes, I have no idea, because I have not watched him a lot, and I don't have a certain opinion on it. I just think we should not be rushing anyway to be bringing managers from less competitive leagues after 1 or 2 good seasons, even if they were fantastic. So yeah, that's,
to be fair, he
that's
has won the league twice with Sporting.
No, I know, but the thing is, it's
I
never
agree
the
with you,
same.
but
It's never the same.
Then you compare that to someone like Potter or De Serbi, who they are in a better league, but they haven't won anything. Then you're like, okay, what do we think is more important? Credentials in the same league or winning? Like it's a weird toss up.
For me, I would say experience in general.
Yeah, no, you're right. Absolutely. Let me just quickly clarify myself. I was wrong. It's not fully in our hands. We are now ahead of United, but obviously United play tomorrow, so they could overtake us again. But Newcastle are obviously 2 points ahead of us, so we need Newcastle to drop points. It's not in our hands. It's just if Man United drop points. So I was wrong on that. But because United and Newcastle still play each other, there is still every chance of that happening. There is obviously also the weird scenario that United, in a way, could finish 8th, but win the FA Cup. And then even if we did finish 6th, we wouldn't get Europa League. So there's also that weird scenario out there that could happen. So which again, that would make it even more ridiculous if we come 6th, but because United win the FA Cup, then they sack Poch because you didn't get Europa League. That's why I'm like, no, you can't just say get Europa League, otherwise you're sacked. That's just silly. Like football needs to have more logic to it. Jamie, I'll come to you. First of all, where do you stand on, Europa League is the demand, blah, blah, blah. And these names that have been scratched out. I know for you, well, judging from your tweets anyway, you are very much a fan of De Serbi and you think it should be De Serbi that takes over next. So, thoughts? I am not sure if you're muted, but I can't hear you. Well, I cannot hear him. So, we'll move on for now.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you now, bro. There you go.
Sorry. I was just saying, I think it's been like a clear goalpost move from the board. I think since the Arsenal game, it's been very clear they've had a breakdown in the relationship. I even think maybe they've told Poch that he's going to go at the end of the season. Maybe it's gone to that extent. And we've seen him change systems since then and come out bashing the board and everything, saying the whole organization needs to improve. So you don't really say those kind of things unless something has broken down. And I think maybe this kind of David Ornstein coming out could be the board kind of moving the goalpost, saying, oh, shoot, to cover their tracks in case they do have to fire him, that they have a higher target or something like that. Because if we keep winning 5-0 to the end of the season, and they sack him, I think there's going to be a lot of fans saying, what are you guys doing? And then they have the whole risk of a new manager as well.
Yeah, not like we have been saying, what are you guys doing for the last 2 years straight? But,
yeah.
It's not like that will be new.
As you say, from my tweets and everything, I have always been on the side that our player recruitment has been amazing. I don't think they've really missed a signing. The reason why I've been so against Poch is
I fully agree with that. But there you go. Go on.
Fair enough. But I think the reason I'm so against Poch is because I believe so highly in these players and the quality they have. And I think the system he's used them in has been absolutely horrendous all season. And then in the last 3 games, he's changed it to a system that suits the players. And look at the uptick in results and performances. It's the most dominant and controlled we've looked in the last 3 games. And I don't think anyone can say the kind of player versus manager argument is not clear after what we've seen, from one simple system change to the performances we put out the last 3 games. For me, it's very, very clear. I remember there was like a game against Brentford or something. We had a few injuries and we had Disasi and Colwell as fullbacks, and they were hugging the touchline like wingers. And then we had Mudryk and Madueke inside infield like as inverted forwards, and it's just like a complete misprofiling. You just made me question Poch, thinking, do you even understand the profile of these players having two center backs holding width whilst touchline wingers are central? And it just made no sense. But finally, we have our dangerous touchline wingers holding width. We have the fullbacks coming inside to allow them to do that, and everything looks a lot more balanced and controlled. And yeah, I think,
and all of a sudden, because our wingers hold width, we also have space for two kind of central players that like help in attack. Obviously, Palmer and Gallagher pushing up. Yeah. While the wingers were narrow, there was never space. If Gallagher wasn't already the 10, if someone from one of the midfielders pushed up, we just crowded ourselves out. But I agree. Like, I'm not fully in agreement that all the signings were great. I still have my doubts over Disasi.
Disasi, yes, I agree with that. And Mudryk is hit or miss, but the rest of them, I think, are so highly. But also on the wingers thing, it's not even that. It was that they give the inside forward space and they get more 1v1s. But it's also the fact that they're pinning the opposition's fullback. So finally, we have that space in the middle where these opposition fullbacks have to worry about them. Before, it was like, I remember like with Tottenham, it was like kind of him trying to fit this sequence where he had Ali, Eriksson, and so on, very guys he liked to play central, and then he had fullbacks like Walker and Rose that would create play inside, and then on the overlap they would get the fullbacks wide and they'd create chances, and it worked well because it worked for those profiles. But if you have players like Madueke and Mudryk, you need to get them 1v1. You can't have them in the middle like that. And the amount of times we had them in the middle, and then we would get Gusto or our fullback so high up to get the overlap. How many times were we like screwed on the transition because we had fullbacks up, forwards up, everyone up, and then suddenly two passes and the opposition are like through on our goal, you know? It's also this whole, I think what Pep introduced, this fullback coming in, is it gives a lot more security on transitions, but also a lot more control. But you're just as dangerous in attack, if not more, because you know you're getting your danger men in the right areas.
No, I do agree. The one thing I will say is, if you tried this with Chilwell, it would not work at all. But Cucurella is actually
that's one player that's not going to fit this system at all. He needs to go if this continues.
Well, yeah. Let me just come in for a very brief moment. If we have Reece James and Chilwell fit, for me, it would be more logical that Reece James is the one who goes in midfield, and then Chilwell just stays as a third left center back, which I think would suit him better in such a formation. So
I guess we could do that, but
I guess
would we do that better than like a fit Levi Colwill, though?
Well, let's say we have Chilwell, Colwill, and then maybe Chalobah next to them, or Fofana fit, or Disasi, or Badiashile. I mean, the thing is, if we have more players fit, we have more options. This is something I think we have been definitely lacking this season. And therefore, I think we have not been so good tactically, because I agree, in some situations, the midfield looks scrambled. But at the end of the day, Poch was trying to fit Enzo and Caicedo together. And now we don't have that problem, because if Enzo plays, then we have to play him instead of Gallagher, or instead of Madueke to keep Gallagher out there. So in that kind of a system, the dynamic of the attacking play would completely change. So in a way, it has been a small blessing, this part of the season where we miss Enzo, because we can try out different things. And this is something which I thought would be beneficial if also in some games we tried to make Caicedo sit on the bench so we can see what other options we have. Because for the most part of the season, it just seemed that we have to use Enzo and Caicedo, both of them, at the same time, and we have to make it work. And sometimes when you're in such a situation, it's not necessarily possible to make it work. I mean, I'm not saying Enzo could not work in such a system, but you would have to significantly tweak it in the way we press if we have to put him in there.
I think it's fine, but the problem was having Enzo.
To clarify, before you go into detail, where would you play Enzo in this system?
That is a problem. I think the only option is to have that Gallagher role. To be honest, he's best in where Cucurella and Caicedo would be. You want him playing from deep, but I think he can do what Gallagher is doing. I think the problem all season was not having to fit Caicedo and Enzo. It's him trying to put Caicedo, Enzo, and Gallagher, all three of them. It just doesn't work. You need to pick between the two and rotate about it. That's why I get so annoyed when he complained about lack of depth when he had three midfielders he can rotate between, but he chose to keep all three of them on the pitch every single time. I think Enzo can do the Gallagher role, but what's really good about Gallagher having this role is it's like, if you think about what Gallagher is good at, it's running, right? And pressing, and he does have a good knack for getting into the box. So this role kind of puts him away from the pivot where he's not very technical and his touch is a bit loose. He's not really going to find good combinations there. So we get him out of the pivot and you can keep Cucurella and Caicedo there. But what he can do higher up is kind of like the +1, is press, run, and get into the box, which is what he is good at. And he's often the pressing trigger now since the new shape. You can just see how much better our pressing and counter pressing is with Cucurella a bit behind him.
Leading it, absolutely. I think even generally, like, there was one thing we did slightly different today against Spurs and even the second half against Villa, that when Cucurella pushed in here, we didn't really ask Mudryk to drop in here to be the passing option. It was actually more of a case that Mudryk stayed high and Gallagher dropped over here, and then you almost had created a bit of a midfield.
Even Palmer, at some situations, Palmer was coming in between Cucurella and Caicedo to just give that free space in front of them.
On the side, absolutely. I know you're right. But I felt at least it was a bit more often Gallagher. But regardless, absolutely,
but the thing is, it happened and it freed a lot more space, and that's why we saw also Mudryk dribbling more, Madueke dribbling more. Even Jackson had also chances to dribble from the halfway line, which is not something we see every game. Most of the time, he just picks the ball deep on the wing. But today, he could just pick the ball anywhere he wants and try a dribble. Even though most of them failed, he did play well.
It's a weird one where it's a tough one to judge, really, like how much of today's game and result was us being really good and how much of it was West Ham not being very good. Now, obviously, if you talk about like second half, we then took the foot off the gas after the 4-0, so we let them do their thing a little bit. Okay, they never managed to score, but in the first half, we kind of just destroyed them so hard that they were dead after 35 minutes. So it's difficult to judge how much of it was us being great and them being poor. But if you're a good team, that's how a lot of games go. If you just play really, really well, a lot of teams will look really, really bad against you. But yeah, let's quickly get into these lineups and share our thoughts on it. Before that, shout out Daniels, I'm going to try to pronounce it, football show. We need to start looking to cash in on Chilwell. Jamie, where do you stand on it? You said that a few minutes ago. It's like, if we keep doing this, then Chilwell is the one that's going to suffer most. Like Dimitar said, you could probably play him as a left centre back. I think he could do a job in that. Good recovery pace, I guess. He's quite strong in the air as well. He's not short like a Cucurella is, for example, if you try to play him at centre back, which obviously he did under Potter at Brighton, but and a couple of times for us. But Chilwell will be a bit better at that. But playing it out from the back under pressure, that's exactly what I don't want Chilwell doing. And if he's a centre-back and he does make a mistake, it's even more costly than if he makes a mistake in that situation while he's a left-back. So I actually agree with Daniel's football show. Honestly, I understand he's vice-captain and that's why it won't happen, which is, a problem in and of itself. But, I mean, not just Cucurella, but you look at the last four, I guess, with the second half now, the last 5 halves of football. Today against West Ham, Spurs on Thursday, and Aston Villa last Saturday. That second half against Aston Villa. The 4 best players in those games, for me, like all 3 games together, are probably Cucurella, Chalobah, Gallagher, and Caicedo. Those 4 were probably the best players. You could maybe throw a Madueke in there if you wanted to. Palmer was obviously good today, a little bit more quiet the last couple of days. But these 3, outside of Caicedo, are the 3 most likely players of the first team that we're going to sell this summer. And it's just like, obviously they weren't this good 3 weeks ago, aside from Gallagher. But like, it's even like, in a way, I almost feel bad for the owners with this happening all of a sudden, because they clearly had this plan for a long time. Okay, we're going to get pure profit of Gallagher, we're going to get pure profit of Chalobah, and obviously, clearly we're going for Chilwell, so we're going to buy a new left back and get rid of Cucurella. All of a sudden, these 3 are our best players. They're like, well, what the fuck? Like, honestly, if I was them and I had this almost budget pre-planned, I'd probably also be a bit stuck for what I'm doing. But obviously, I wouldn't be an idiot and buy so many players that I now need to sell all the pure profit players. But, they haven't really worked out how that works. But yeah, Jamie, where do you stand on obviously cash in on Chilwell, but also what I just talked about in terms of the 3 most likely sales, which is it's just annoying, isn't it?
Yeah, I just don't. I think it'd be very worrying if they sold any of these 3, to be honest. Especially if they keep.
So you should be worried from now on.
Yeah. Well, to me, what makes most sense is do whatever you can to ship the likes of Lukaku, Sterling, the guys on big wages who aren't clearly going to be part of this team. Chilwell, I think, is also one of our highest earners. If you can get rid of 3 of them rather than these low-earning homegrown players, I don't know all the financials behind it, but like surely, despite the pure profit argument, it should equate to quite even numbers in terms of wages and overtime. But yeah, maybe I'm wrong with that, but yeah, I think it'd be quite worrying if they chose to sell those likes and then kept players like Sterling and Chilwell, guys who won't even the highest earners who won't be part of the team.
Exactly. That's part of the problem. Obviously, there's pure profit to look at, like in terms of which Gallagher and Chalobah will bring the most of, being academy players. But you mentioning wages there is also a factor that we should remember and think about as well, because the wages are essentially indirectly pure profit, if you will, because obviously what you amortize, sure, you amortize their wages in advance, but you still amortize the transfer fee, which obviously if we sell Lukaku for his release clause now, that's basically going to break even with what he's still worth on our books. So selling him doesn't actually bring us money in terms of allowing us to spend more. But taking his wages, obviously his wages were already off the books this season because Roma, he lowered his wages and Roma covered the wages that he was still on. But if you got rid of them permanently and you added Sterling to that, the only problem is if you get rid of Sterling, you need to buy another left winger. And then you're in a position where you don't need 3 players, you need 4 players. And you know how many players we need to sell to afford 4 new players that are good enough? A lot. Sorry?
How about Omari Hutchinson, though, as a backup to Madueke?
I mean, I take it, but I mean, he seems more comfortable on the right. And
can bet my house they're going to loan him out with a mandatory option to sell for next season. Omari Hutchinson, I can bet my house on that, because this is why the sporting director went to watch youth games, because they are now, I think they have realized they need to sell more youth than they originally planned, because they may have to keep Gallagher, because if they keep Poch, he will demand a minimum of keeping Gallagher. And that's you need to raise 50 more million. So I'm pretty sure they're going to try and do some shenanigans to get more money out of other youth players. And maybe signing a fixed mandatory clause to sell with someone can make it so that you can write it off the books as future pure profit and stuff like that, like they did with Lewis Hall 2 years ago or last season, I don't remember.
Yeah, no, I agree. Hutchinson is a tough one. Hutchinson, was he still bought under the old ownership, or was he in the first term of the new ownership? I think he was actually in the
20 now, so
it was the new ownership, but it was a free transfer from Arsenal.
Yeah, it was a free transfer from Arsenal, obviously, and he was only 16 at the time. Or it was basically Arsenal let him go, not fully let him go, but we gave him his first professional contract. I think I could be wrong on this.
I think you pay a mandatory 5 or 6 million if you sell the player for money later on that kind of situation. Because remember, for Dom Solanke, we got some sort of deal like that from Liverpool or from someone else.
Yeah, it's basically I don't know the English expression for it. It's basically an education fee, like football education.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I'd hope it's not Hutchinson, because I mean, Madueke has done really, really well over the last few weeks. But talent-wise, Hutchinson is far clear, in my opinion. Arguably, Hutchinson is far clear of all the wingers we have, depending on whether you count Palmer as an out-and-out winger or not. But yeah, anyway. Shout out Daniels again for the super chat. I appreciate it. Anything you want to add on to that, Dimitar, or shall we finally get into the lineup and the ratings?
Just briefly, I would love for us to just make as little transfers as possible and just address very specific needs that the team does. Because just selling and cashing out on players, as people say, will just lead to us needing to buy more players. And I worry every time we have to buy a player, because in my opinion, most of what we have bought are complete misses up until this point, and that is the situation why we were in 10th and 12th last year, and why we have so many problems. because we buy young players who we don't know if they're injury prone or not. They're inconsistent and they lack experience. And I think this is part of the issue why we're where we are. Not saying that that the players are bad talent-wise, but sometimes you can be the best player in the world and it can still not work out. Because as we remember, Angel Di Maria was terrible at Manchester United and went on and is still playing. He even played for Argentina like last winter in the World Cup. So you can have a talented player who just does not fit the team. And this could very well have happened to some of our players because I'm not convinced on a couple of them. But yeah, let's go to the player ratings now.
Let's do it. I mean, let's quickly, thoughts on the lineup. Obviously, the same team with exception of one change. Thiago Silva essentially coming in for Alfred Gilchrist and therefore Trevor Chalobah moving out to the right centre-back / right-back position. No idea where Thiago Silva all of a sudden came from. I thought he was injured. We all thought he had played his last game for the club. All of a sudden, he's back. So, fantastic. But I don't see how he managed to only be injured for a week. But, hey, especially at 39, some of the other players should take a look at him. Think about how long all these others have been out for. Thiago Silva does his groin and a week later is starting again. Unbelievable.
Yep.
Unbelievable. Otherwise, the same team. But why change it? You know, it's been working very well. So, why change it, right?
Yeah. One thing I think we should mention is we looked way more better passing the ball in defense with Chalobah instead of Gilchrist on the right, and the experience that Chalobah has, even though he's 23 maybe, it showed a lot because he always knew how to stretch out play and when to tuck in to make space for Caicedo or for Madueke to come in front of him. So for me that made a big difference, and that's why there were basically phases of play where we made maybe like 4 or 5 minutes where we did not lose the ball. We were just passing it around like it was a training session.
Yeah, literally. And that I know we didn't sometimes we didn't even do that with purpose until Palmer let himself fall so deep that he just was like, "Now, okay, I've had enough of passing it around for no reason. Now I'm playing football now." But even that in itself, like at 3-4-0 up, I almost want to see that. Like at 3-4 up, don't need us to go for the kill all the time and be susceptible to counterattack.
If it's 3-0, you already went for the kill. You already killed them.
Exactly. And relax. Just keep it, make sure you keep a clean sheet. Don't let them get any hope back into it. Fantastic. But yeah, Jamie, thoughts on the team? Thiago Silva coming back in was surprising, but otherwise the same as recently, which obviously as it should have been.
Yeah. Nothing unexpected, I guess. Not really much we can say about it. I think just the whole thing is the new structure with Cuckoo coming into midfield. I think that just simply needs to be what we do for the rest of the season. I don't want the availability of Gusto being more of a wing-back kind of style player to change things. I think Poch has found his structure, and I think he needs to find ways to get players like Gusto into the structure rather than,
changing the structure again for Gusto. No, I actually agree with that. Now, I'm not saying you need to necessarily play this every single game. The only thing is, I don't trust Poch to have the tactical nuance to know this game I play it, this game I don't. So I'd probably prefer if we just stuck to it all the time. By the way, shout out Lewis, shout out everybody that joined from Lewis's stream. Big up all of you. Let's get into these player rates. And let's start with Georgia Petrovic. Back-to-back clean sheets. Back-to-back clean sheets in London derby. So well done him. He also did make a couple of saves today. Nothing outrageous, but he did.
There was one in the first half, which was nice.
Yeah,
from that corner where someone missed the ball very comically in front of him.
Yeah. He officially only made 2 saves, which is less than he did against Spurs, but still, I think he did a good job. He collected pass as well. He had 94% pass completion as well, which was against Spurs was I think in the 50s. I know against Spurs we punted it long, and because West Ham didn't press us as hard, it was obviously much easier to pass it out for him. So that obviously plays a role. But I still think he's done well. Also, the way he made himself big in front of Emerson when Emerson decided I'm not scoring. But I will give Petrovic a 7. I can be convinced into a 7.5. So let's see what you boys think. Dimitar, I'll go with you first. What do you reckon?
I was also thinking a 7. Actually, he had absolutely nothing to do, but he did it perfectly. So I'm going to just say a 7.
Yeah, there you go. Jamie, would you agree with the 7?
Yeah,
would you go
I agree. Not much to say, though, to be fair. West Ham did absolutely nothing.
No, absolutely. It's true. Let's move on then. First centre-back, Thiago Silva, obviously was subbed off after 82 minutes and was replaced by God knows who came on for him officially. Let me see who came on for.
A lot of people. Gilchrist came on. Gusto came on.
Disasi came on for him.
Disasi came on.
Yeah. But yeah, Thiago Silva, 99% pass completion, 75 out of 76. He got an assist as well, remember? The assist for Madueke. So great day in the office for him, I would say. 1 accurate cross, 1 accurate long ball, 3 out of 3 tackles, 3 out of 3 ground duels. Hey, 100% everywhere, except passing, and that's 99%. So maybe I'm going to overdo it here, but I'm going to go very high with almost all the ratings today. So just so everybody watching and, obviously you boys, Dimitar and Jamie, are prepared. But I'm going to go very high here for nearly all of them. I'm going to go 9, which I know is maybe high because West Ham basically didn't threaten us defensively. But they, at the same time, still hit the bar 3 times. So you could argue, well, did we even defend that well? But I'm still going to go that high because, first of all, he got an assist. Second of all, I thought we built it out from the back really, really well. And I know they hit the bar 3 times, but I felt like most of these, rather than being bad defending, except one, it was a bit.
Well, 2 were from a corner or from a set piece. So basically, those were.
Exactly. And they had a throw in and they still brought Zouma up into the box. Do you know what I mean? Like they were going all for that. So it happens. But yeah, I'll say 9. I'll see what you boys think. Jamie, have I gone way too high for you or what do you reckon?
I mean, it's hard to say. I think if he's a 9, then most of our defenders and team will be up there. So I'm happy to do it.
You're very happy to go lower, by the way. Like it's just mine.
No. I'm happy to maybe like an 8.5. There was like I think like one pass that came back to him like really hard, like kind of in the air, and he just calmly like pinged it straight down the middle. First touch, which was. Things like that just make you love him. He's so composed, so calm. No matter what kind of pass he receives, he doesn't freak out or panic, and he finds the right option always. So I think maybe because he got an assist as well, we can say 8.5, 9.
Yeah, fair enough. And like I say, I mean, I know stats don't tell everything, but if you've got 100% of crosses, 100% of long balls, 100% of tackles, and 100% of ground duels, what on earth more do you want a centre-back to do, for the love of God?
Also, he got an assist, and he could have gotten a second assist. If you remember, there was a cross he received almost at the byline, which he straightforwardly passed to the center of the penalty box, but it was cleared. So, yeah.
No, exactly. Dimitar, where would you go? An 8.5?
I'm going to say also an 8.5, which I think is incredibly high for a defender anyway.
Yeah.
But like I said already, we looked so much better with his experience because, as we know, a back 3 will always make smart center backs look even better, the same way it did for David Luiz all those years ago. So in a back 3, Thiago Silva just looks like a complete general. He was dictating the tempo perfectly. And this is something which we lacked thus far this season, because this constant passing in the back, we do that often. But today it looked like it had a purpose. It looked like every time we were resetting, we straight on decided to try and attack. And even if it didn't work, we reset and the next pass is going forward. But prior in the season, we were doing like maybe 6, 7, 8 backward passes in a row, which were complete nonsense, but we were doing them. And today, every time it looked like they wanted to go forward after every single pass. And I think his vision was also a big part of that. So yeah, 8.5, even though they hit the bar 3 times, I think the defense did well. Maybe only the last time was kind of a situation where they dropped their guard down, the third bar, like in the 80th or 70th minute.
But Gallagher kind of played almost back to Bowen.
So apart from that, they were good.
To be honest, I think you guys, maybe 8.5 is ever so slightly more justified than the 9 I would have gone for. So I'm happy with this. I just want to highlight this quickly here. I so agree with Agent Aku. Why on earth are we letting him leave? Like, I just don't get it. Like, I just do not understand why you would do that. Like, obviously, he's now signed with Fluminense already from the summer. So all the best to him. And fair enough. If Thiago said, no, I want to go home to Fluminense now for a year or 2 before I retire, fair enough. But we didn't even make him the offer.
Oh, for sure, they did not offer anything.
Exactly. Sure. Okay. Oh, sure. In theory, obviously, we could have been in the background, asked him, if we gave you a contract, would you want to stay? And maybe he said no. That in theory could have happened. And then obviously we didn't make the offer in the first place because you already said no. But if that didn't happen, it's just so silly for me that we let him go. But hey, I've cried about this many times.
Do you know what would be silly if we change Poch in the summer and like 3 weeks in the next manager says, I wish I had an experienced center back like Thiago Silva at the club.
Oh well, Poch will say that himself anyway, not just a new manager. So it's like Poch would have definitely wanted Thiago to stay. I'm sure of it, even with the whole Bell Silva tweet stuff. But anyways, we move on. Big Benoit Badiashile. I thought an absolutely brilliant performance from him as well today. He was so good in being aggressive, defending aggressively. It was unbelievable. He had 92% pass completion as well, 84 out of 91 passes. The long balls, not quite as accurate as Thiago's, but still 3 out of 6, which is strong. 1 out of 1 tackles, 1 out of 2 ground duels. No aerial duels for any of them, surprisingly. But yeah, I thought it was very, very good, but didn't get an assist. Hence, because Thiago Silva got an 8.5, I'm going to give Badiashile an 8 and just ever so slightly lower, because I think in terms of performance, I think it was very similar at the back. And yeah, like I say, his aggressive defending I thought was absolutely brilliant. Dimitar, what would you give Big Ben to?
I'm also going to go with an 8. Like you said, his aggression, and not only the aggression, but the good timing of it. Yeah. Because I think we touched it on in the last stream as well. There are these situations where you see him going to the halfway line and making a correct tackle and slowing down play and just intercepting something. And this is what we have missed all season from basically all of our players. Just smart, intelligent movement into midfield position where you can cut off the attack of the opposition. And I think this is also why we looked like we were in control for maybe 70% of the game today, which is like an absolute record for us. I'm pretty sure up until Christmas we had not had a total of 70 minutes control in all of our games, probably because we looked so shaky. But yeah, with him, very confident. I really like how he turned it around, because 2 or 3 games ago he was looking like he was absolutely scared every single time he touched the ball, and today he was very confident. So yeah, 8. Let's hope he keeps with these performances.
Fair dues. Supreme says here, did anyone notice that at the start of the game he seemed to be playing right centre-back, then he switched out afterwards? I did see it, and even Nazar Kinsella tweeted about it, and that's what made me pay attention to it. But I don't know quite how we got into the situation, but I don't think it was he actually started this way. I think just some sort of positional fluidity led to, okay, you stay over there for a minute, and I'll stay over here for a minute, I think anyway. Jamie, would you agree with an 8 for Badiashile? I mean, Ritz even says, in his opinion, Badiashile was better than Silva. Would you agree with that? I think maybe you could argue purely from a defensive point of view, but then Thiago still got an assist, and like Dimitar said, could have had a second as well.
Yeah, I see the point. Like, in terms of defending aggressively, I wouldn't say a harder skill than kind of reading at the back, but it's a lot riskier. And if you get things wrong there, you can look quite stupid. But I think the last few games, I never really thought of him as a super aggressive player. I thought Kola would be kind of our most aggressive centre back, but he's kind of proven me wrong a little bit there, because he's been very good at stepping out, and I think it's helped our counter pressing a lot, and ball recoveries. And I don't know, something about the putting Cucurella into midfield, I feel has with more security on transitions, I think he's had more confidence to step out and do things like this. But yeah,
I think we also got the whole aggression part. Obviously, you're allowed to be more aggressive as a centre-back if you're almost playing in a back 3. Because if you're playing as a centre-back 2 and you're aggressive as a centre-back, if you miss the ball, you're basically almost guaranteed to concede, or guaranteed to concede a big chance anyway. While if you're in a back 3, the left and the right centre-back can, and sometimes even the central one, can do that and still leave 2 centre-backs behind them. And that obviously just allows you to be much more aggressive. But yeah, no, I do agree. Jamie, did you agree with the 8 in the end, or would you have something different?
Yeah, I'll say 8 as well, because you give more points for assists and everything. So yeah, 8 is fair.
Fair dues. Moving on to Trevor Chalobah. Again, absolutely fantastic. And I tweeted this during the first half. It almost feels like we found another cheat code, because having Chalobah at the far post for all of the crosses to our far right post, we've been so susceptible to these all season, whether early in the season Reach played, whether then most of the season Gusto played, or the games that Gilchrist played there, the games that Dizazi played there, the far right post was always a shambles, because when it was the centre back out there, they always came way too central, and therefore they left the winger or the fullback on the far side unmarked, and they always had an easy time to like cross it back in or shoot or head it. And when it was Gusto, he just seemed to not. That's the one thing that Gusto is not great at, in my opinion, like defending these kind of far
he's way shorter.
No,
Also,
obviously that plays a part as well, but I still think his positioning on them, like he loses his man just too easily on these a few times. I think it's also a bit of a right back thing more than like centre backs learn to not lose the guy they're marking. The right backs, they learn that a little bit less, I guess, right? But I thought that was played a massive part why we didn't let West Ham get dangerous in the first half in particular. He was so good at those. And then that pass to Madueke essentially for the 4-0 before Noni laid it off to Jackson was unbelievable. What a pass that is. Trevor Chalobah.
Insane. Absolutely
Trevor Chalobah,
insane.
one of the most underrated players, not just at Chelsea, in the league. Unbelievable player. Unbelievable player. I feel a bit harsh for Badiashile, but I want to give Chalobah a higher rating than Badiashile now. I'm going to say 8.5 and almost hope that you boys say maybe both 8 and then we're back down to an 8 for Chalobah and Badiashile. But we'll see what you boys say. I'll say 8.5. To be fair, I did give Silva a 9. Maybe then I would have given Badiashile as 8.5 if Silva got the 9. But here we are. So I'll say 8.5, but I understand if someone wants to go low. I mean, CFC Jack even said 9. Jamie, I'll go with you first. What do you make of Chalobah? What do you make of my point with the whole far post thing? And obviously that pass. How good was that?
Well, yeah, the far post thing is a completely fair comment. I think like Pep and then now Arteta are kind of showing you can play games by inverting defenders into midfield, but also having 4 very strong guys, not only scoring from set pieces, but being very solid from defending that. And, in the Premier League, you get teams that purely rely on these kind of situations to score goals. So having that extra height makes a lot of sense. And I think but it needs to be in the right structure, because before we were kind of doing it with, okay, we can't play Maatsen at left back, despite how stupid I thought that was, but we need Cole.
Maatsen could definitely be doing what Cucurella is doing right now.
Exactly. That's one of the most disappointing things, actually, because Maatsen would be perfect for that role.
But then again, if you also kept Maatsen, then there's no way you're keeping Chalobah and Gallagher either. So, like, the pure profit needs to be coming from somewhere. We need to be realistic as well.
Yeah, I'll let one of them go. Yeah, my point was before he was like, okay, well, Maatsen's too small, so we put Cole there. But when you just don't have the structure and you're playing that bad anyway, you're going to concede from these situations no matter what. The priority needs to be getting that structure where you control games and dominate possession, and these chances will come a lot less for the other team, and you demoralize them like we saw today. That should always be the first thing you think about, rather than just be like, okay, I'm going to put Cole at left back, despite him holding width, being very stupid because he adds height, and just made us play 1,000 times worse. You can't just add height for the
if Cole played like as an inverted kind of left back, as a left centre back, that would have been fine the whole time. On the right, but that's not what he did.
Exactly, like Chalobah did on the right, you can do that with Cole on the left, and you invert a right fullback into midfield, or like a Gusto into midfield. You can do that same situation, but you need that balance. Exactly, is what I'm talking about.
There you go. Just replying here to Kevin in the chat, just saying Dortmund have a 35 million euros buy option for Maatsen, like 30 million pounds roughly. So unless Dortmund can't afford him, we're not getting more than that, unfortunately, because we thought, he ain't good. We've never seen him play, because why would you? So we obviously gave him a ridiculously cheap buying option, and now he's one of their best players, and they're in the Champions League semi-final and might even make a Champions League final, which would be unbelievable. Jamie, quickly, what rating would you give Chalobah?
Just for the pass, I'll agree with you. 8.5. That pass was unbelievable. That's the kind of thing we were looking for Cole to do. He was doing at Brighton all season last year. That kind of where you give the eyes that you're going to play it right, but then you swing it infield. And it was a great run by Madueke as well to come outside in. But if Chalobah doesn't look like he's going to play it right and then plays it through the middle, then that doesn't happen. So it takes a lot of kind of skill to do that, which is
absolutely. And he also kind of like, I'd need to see it back if I'm right in the way I remember it, but it felt like there was also a Caicedo pass that he played like that. The ball was kind of like behind him as he passes it, and he still managed to make such a
pass. The thing is, both passes you're thinking about had a lot of power also to them. They were just like raw power and perfect accuracy, which is very rare to see, because most of the time these balls are kind of these Hollywood passes that Bruno Fernandes does every game for Man United, which are just these long balls. They travel so much time and then they perfectly land at the feet of the winger. But this was just raw power and it was perfectly accurate.
And I think because the ball was slightly behind him, he couldn't overhit it. Do you know what I mean? Like it was nearly impossible for him to overhit it the way the ball was. One thing he could have, maybe even should have scored from that Mudryk cross. From him, like he had that.
For sure. But
they could have scored that. But otherwise, I thought it was brilliant. Dimitar, would you go along with an 8.5? Enough, or would you go 8?
I was maybe even thinking up a 9, but I think 8.5 is fine, because, like I said earlier, with him on the right and Thiago Silva in the middle, our play between the back 5, which we are seeing on your screen now, was just almost flawless today. I think maybe only once for the whole game someone made a bad pass, which could have resulted in a chance for the opposition. For most of the time, they were perfectly calm. They were controlling the tempo of the game perfectly, and this is what we wanted to see all season. So I'm extremely happy to see Chalobah, of all people, who basically did not play a single minute until March, if I'm not mistaken, be one of the people who...
Wasn't his first minute in the cup final when he came on?
Probably, but he basically missed almost 2/3 of the season, and to see him now at the tail end just being part of our tactical and general revival is very nice. So 8.5.
Fantastic. Just to quickly read out some stats as well: 64 of 67 passes, 96%, 2 out of 3 long balls, 1 out of 1 tackle, 1 out of 3 ground duels, 2 out of 2 aerial duels. Very good performance, honestly, very, very good performance. Let's move on to one of the stars of the show, Mr. Marco Cucurella. Hey, he got Stamford Bridge from last season when I was away at Dortmund. I was in the away end, and the away end was every time Cucurella touched the ball, there was a few people in the stand booing him every time he got the ball. That's how much against people were. That's how much people were against him. Today, he got half of Stamford Bridge singing his song. Like that transformation is unbelievable that he's managed to pull that off. It's almost Jorginho vibes, who went from being booed at the bridge to having his name sung almost every week. It's unbelievable. Honestly, I'm realistically, I'm almost tempted to give him a 10. Like, I'm not, but I'm tempted, because the last couple of games he still only had like 78, 82 kind of ish passing accuracy. Today he had 92. Again, I know, because West Ham didn't pressure us very much, and obviously we killed them off so early, kind of made the whole thing easier. But still, 92% passing accuracy in that position. Fantastic. 3 out of 5 tackles, 6 out of 11 ground duels. Okay, could be ever so slightly more, but still, I just think he's so good. And he just understands movement and space, I think, better than anybody else in the team, other than maybe Thiago Silva. Like, because not only does he help us by improving our rest defense, not only does he help us by improving our build-up, because he plays one-touch pass every time, whether it's with Caicedo, with the centre-backs, with Gallagher, with Mudryk, every time he plays one-touch. But also, the runs he makes to drag defenders, to drag the midfielders in attack in the final third, unbelievable. There was one time when he made an underlapping run for Madueke to find him on the right, and he passed it back. Like, it's crazy. Like, because I can't say 10 because he didn't do anything special, goals or assists. I mean, maybe I could say 10, but I'm saying 9.5. Absolutely fine if you guys go lower and we lower it down to an 8.5 or a 9 or whatever. Absolutely fine by me. But yeah, I just want to highlight how impressed I am by him. The only small negative about his performance today was getting booked, and even still, he didn't get himself sent off or anything, which, could happen easier than you sometimes want, but he didn't, because we need him. So yeah, I'm gonna say 9.5. We'll see what the boys say. Dimitar, what would you give Cucurella?
I'm gonna go with a 9, even though I completely agree with everything you said. Yeah. His versatility and his tactical awareness are just insane. Also, he has tactical discipline, which is not very rare, but it's to that level, to which he executes it. It's very rare, because I specifically made it my goal to watch him today, and every single time he was moving in perfect synchronous with the team. When we were attacking, he was always going forward, sitting next to Caicedo. When we were trying to defend in the very few situations where we did. He was perfectly slotting into left back. He was tracking his people. He was doing one-touch football, and this is very rare to see. Like, we have never used him in such a situation, and I don't think if in Brighton he did that even once. So all of a sudden to just discover this about him and to make him play it to this level, I think it's very impressive. And I'm also very happy for him because I personally never had anything against him. I thought we were going to sell him for sure because I thought he didn't fit the club in general. But these performances the past 2 weeks have shown me that he is a talented player, and we should try to keep him in some capacity. Maybe next year we do the same thing with Reece James and he becomes a squad player. But even still, I think we should give him a second chance, basically, and just try to use him as much as possible. If he gets to have a great career at Chelsea, we don't know. But yeah, I think he has surely proven good enough to be part of the squad. Maybe a starter, maybe not. But yeah, very happy with him. So I'm going to go with a 9.
Fair dude. A couple of people in the chat saying Max P could go at Brighton, play left centre back and moved into midfield. He played under Potter briefly at Brighton, inverted. He definitely played left centre back and inverted, but did he move into midfield? If so, I'm not aware of it.
Yeah, but maybe, but I also don't remember. But maybe it's not going to be impossible. Yeah.
Jamie, finish Cucurella off for us. Not like that, you know what I mean. 9.5 out of 9 so far. What would you give it?
I think like a 9 is fair. You can see like this role is like tailor made for him. You know, you can see
this is
why
what Pep had planned for him. Surely,
I was just going to say this is exactly what Pep was looking at him and ready to pay that money for. His number one asset is how aggressive he is and his pressing, similar to kind of Gallagher, but he's almost like more controlled with it. Gallagher can be a bit. He can be reckless too, but like his pressing is just like relentless. You know, he's just all.
And what's changed right now, because when he usually did this at left back or left wing back, whatever he played sometimes, then there wasn't sometimes behind him. So if he was aggressive, overdid it, missed the ball, then there was acres of space for them to attack. Exactly. But now, because he's in midfield and there's 3 centre backs behind him, even when that happens every now and again, which can happen if you're defending aggressively, there's people behind him to clean up. So it's not a liability anymore either. So now we're just getting the best out of it.
And also, if I just come in and say this, when playing centrally, he can observe the whole pitch and he can also think and maybe improve on the timing of his aggression, because when you're sitting in left or right back, there's only one place for your aggression. It's basically in your vicinity on the touchline. And now he can go to the right side or to the left and do that with amazing versatility.
Fair point. Jamie.
Yeah, I will say one thing there. We need to see a game where we play like a City or a team that presses very aggressively, like Liverpool at Anfield or something. And I want to see how he copes with, because I thought Tottenham would do a bit better with their pressing against us, but they were so poor, and quite often he still kind of had time on the ball there. I want to see him under a lot of pressure and how he kind of deals with that. And I want to see him maybe do a little bit, like, I think once he gains a bit of confidence, because this is the first time I've seen him play this role before in his career. Once he gains a bit of confidence, maybe use his range of passing a bit more, because we know he has a very good range of passing and threading between lines. We've seen him do it. So I want to see a bit more of that as he grows into the role, but I'm sure he will.
Absolutely. I mean, not quite what Jamie had in mind, I think, but Bournemouth will press. Bournemouth will press properly, so that is fair. They are obviously very good and aggressive in that sense. But there you go. Let's move on to Moyes Caicedo then. Also, a fantastic performance. That assist to Nicolas Jackson for the 5-0 was a wonderful pass as well. Same as Cucurella, 92% passing accuracy, 94 for 102. Completed the most passes in the game today. 4 out of 4 successful dribbles, 5 out of 6 long balls, 2 out of 3 tackles, 7 out of 15 ground duels. That's the only one that could be a little bit better. But even there was, for example, 1 ground duel, 1 tackle, which was a perfectly good tackle, and the ref gave a free kick.
Yeah.
So, make it 8 or 15.
Did he get booked today? Or no, he didn't. Okay.
I thought he would get, because that free kick that the ref gave a free kick for.
For Ward Prowse,
If you see it as a foul, I think it's actually a yellow. But So, like, for me, that makes the ref's decision even more stupid. So, like, either you see that he gets the ball, or if you think he didn't, then you need to book him. Do you know what I mean? Anyway, I will give him a 9. I gave Cucurella 9.5. Not necessarily that I think Cucurella was so much better than Caicedo individually speaking, but in terms of more impressive still, because it's still a new thing, and also arguably in a way more important to the team, because I think Cucurella is also who allows Caicedo to play to quite a level better at the moment. But yeah, Caicedo was fantastic in every way, carried the ball well. Like I say, 4 out of 4 dribbles for a DM is outrageous, really. Passed it well, got an assist, was super involved, was strong in, rest defense, very, very good. So I'm going to say 9. Jamie, what would you say about Caicedo, and what rating would you give him?
I think 9 is fair with the assist. He's just been so much. I think he's been good all season, but I think he's been so much better with Cucurella in there helping him, and because he's quite an aggressive presser as well. When he was playing at Brighton, De Zerbi gets him pressing very aggressively, almost man to man. And if that when you do man to man and you get beaten, then there's 1+ on the other team. So he's very used to pressing aggressively, and he was kind of trying to do that before Cucurella was there. And we got caught out so many times in transitions and losing when you lose the duel. So this kind of new structure has really helped him a lot, I think, as well. So, yeah, I think very solid 9 is fair for me.
Fadus, Dimitar, what would you give him?
I'm going to go with an 8.5. Not that it matters after you guys' 9s. But, yeah, I was overall happy with him. The only thing that still annoys me is that he has these bozo moments. Like for the second Ward-Prowse free kick, he was basically free with the ball, doing nothing. He lost the ball, then he got on the ground, he got up, he ran back, he made a foul. Which this is unnecessary, and he keeps doing that, which is why I still have some question marks on him, because at the end of the day, people say, oh, the previous system did not suit him, or he's not this type of player, you need to use him better, you need to have better tactics. But at the end of the day, I want from every single player to show individual skills and to show what he's good at. And for example, we have seen very clearly what Gallagher is good at. We have seen very clearly what Palmer is good at, even if the team is not playing well. And up until now this season, I felt every time the team was not playing well, we could not see what Caicedo is good at. He always looked well when the team played well, and he always looked average when the team played average. So today was kind of a change to that, because I felt we had real control over the game. And I said it already, the passing and the back 5 that we had was probably the best we have seen all season. And that's why almost all of them have 93, 94, 95% passing accuracies, because they basically did not mistake almost any single pass, and every single time they knew where to pass, how to pass, and it looked very pleasing, even though a bit boring in the second half. But we absolutely destroyed West Ham and their chances of attacking us in a structured or in a meaningful manner. So this is credit to him. I just hope if we make changes to this formation, or if we change personnel in front of him, he can keep up with the same level which he's shown in the last 2 games. So yeah, 8.5 from me. And just a quick information, Liverpool lead 2-0 to Tottenham.
2-0. Okay, there you go.
Yeah, so basically Tottenham get battered everywhere they go.
Tottenham too get battered everywhere they go. Unfortunately, that again, it's like the Sheffield draw and that, what was it, Burnley draw,
and the Wolves game.
We could even and Wolves, obviously, we could even be chasing Spurs right now, but unfortunately, we're not. Anyway, Dimitar, I know you need to head off in a couple of seconds, so why don't you give me a few words on all the remaining players and also your.
Okay, well, the thing is, for most of them, I'm gonna just say I'm very pleased with them. They all would get above an 8 from me, except from Mudryk, who again was a bit silent in the second half, but he is finding his feet. I would say again, Gallagher was probably my second or first man of the match, so for him, I'm just gonna give you a 9.5, because the same as with Cucurella, I feel his tactical discipline is phenomenal, because whenever he needs to be in midfield, he goes to midfield, he picks up the ball, and he instantly goes to press. And
he missed two big chances to get a 9.5.
Oh yeah, well, the thing is, he missed chances, but he
also
also
scored.
scored a phenomenal volley. I mean, this volley looks super easy, but it's not, because he hit it at the perfect moment. So again, he got on the score sheet. He almost got on the score sheet twice. So if he keeps up with this constant goals and assists, it is going to be absolute riots at the bridge if they sell him in the summer. I can just feel it. So yeah, I'm just gonna give you a rating for him. For everyone else, I think they were brilliant 8.5s all over the pitch. For Madueke, I will say he did something I did not expect. He passed to Jackson.
Yeah,
I did not expect that pass to Jackson. I was willing to bet my house he was going to shoot from that position.
Yeah.
So congratulations to him. He's finally trying to improve, which is also very nice to see.
Absolutely.
And yeah, let's say a 7. It's not like he was bad, but he needs to find his place mentally, I believe, so he can get more he can get more confidence, because now he plays more with the team. They're passing to him more than trying to involve him in play more, which is nice, because in previous parts of the season he was completely isolated.
I still want him to shout for the ball more than he does now.
This may be true as well. We don't know, or I don't know if that's a reason why he doesn't get it, but
like, pass to me, and I'm like, just fucking shout for it, man.
Yeah. You're right. So yeah, like I said, for everyone, I'm very pleased that we got the win, and I just hope this form continues. And like you said, I sadly have to go, so I'm just gonna leave you boys now. For Jackson, let's put an 8.5 as well, because he went to ground a little bit too easily on a couple of occasions. I felt he should have stayed up on his feet a little bit more. But yeah.
Do you want to quickly tell me about Poch as well?
I'm going to say a 9 this time, because I just like that he found this and he's sticking to it. Let's see if it keeps his job or not.
Absolutely.
But yeah, like you got,
we appreciate
up the Chelsea.
Up the Chelsea. Have a great rest of your Sunday.
Bye.
Jamie, I'll come back to you. Gallagher, I think Jimmy went a little bit high here. What do you reckon? What would you give Gallagher today? Obviously, a fantastic finish. I think we can all agree on that. But he obviously should have definitely scored the one where he hit the bar from like 2 yards out. And then obviously he had that almost one-on-one. Okay, it wasn't a full one-on-one, but he was, attacking the goal with a lot of space, 2 defenders in front of him. And he had Jackson to his left. I'm not saying Jackson would have necessarily scored, but it would have been the better decision than whatever Gallagher did do. So, yeah. But otherwise, I did agree was very good. I just wouldn't quite go 9.5. What would you give him?
Yeah, I would say a 9 is fair for him. That Jackson one is just so frustrating, because it just sums up like Gallagher as a player, like such great work.
How it was only like 2 or 3 minutes or less than that, even after the other miss. I think that's why he didn't pass it. It's like one of those fucks that you just missed a huge shot, need to make up for it. As much as I get it, you know what I mean? I think that's why it happened anyway.
It's just like he's good when he's instinctive in front of goal, and he just needs to take a quick strike, like the volley. He was like, bang, goal. He's very good at that. But when it's like time and he has to pick the option, or he has to set himself up for the shot, or slip the pass in, he's just not like technically like a Cole Palmer level kind of thinking, nor do we expect him to be. But like it was kind of classic Gallagher. But I will say this new structure is completely suited to him, like to a T. I don't want him near the build-up, because he's not very efficient with his kind of touches and passing.
And I don't want him to be the only 10 as well. So that's why this is perfect. He's kind of both.
Exactly. He's the +1. He's the guy who's going to start all the pressing. He's going to do all of the running. But he also has, because we defend in a 4-4-2, he needs to have that energy to get back into the pivot as well. So he needs to be the +1, but also in the pivot where Caicedo is. So you need someone with incredible running, which is why I'm a bit like, does that suit Enzo if he comes back in? Does he have that same?
It's interesting, isn't it? Because if we see Enzo with like his hernia issue fixed, does he then have the legs to do this? Obviously, he's not as quick as Gallagher, but usually these kind of Argentinians midfielders, I'm not saying he's like the Paul, but they are often like, they're very gritty. Like, it's not like they have often stamina issues. I feel like if running doesn't hurt him, which we all know it did for the last 6 months, I feel like maybe he could actually do that. I'm not sure if he gets the best out of him, though.
I mean, we've seen Poch make him run like a fucking marathon runner, up and down as like he was playing in the pivot with Caicedo, and then he was told to like pretty much do what Gallagher's doing, getting into the box, like acting like a second striker. So he does have that, especially if he's doing that through.
He just isn't good at scoring at the moment. I'm not sure if you saw that stat, but somehow he's on the top 10 list in the Premier League of most XG missed. Like it's like 9th or 10th on that, which is for him to be even in that list is ridiculous.
Yeah, but the thing is, he's not great at the scoring, but when he gets into that Gallagher situation for the second one, I trust him to pick that pass perfectly,
I agree.
Yeah.
Absolutely. All right. We move on from Conor Gallagher and we move over to Mr. Cole Palmer. Got himself a goal again today, which is obviously good. Not quite as many as Haaland, and the Golden Boot is probably gone now. But hey, we move. Also robbed of a couple of assists. Obviously, that one to Gallagher, where Gallagher missed from 2 yards out and hit the bar. That would have been a lovely Palmer assist. There was also a couple of others where I thought Palmer, I know he only had 1 goal and no assist today, but I thought he was back to his usual great self because the last 2 games he wasn't quite on it. Also, probably because of being a bit ill before the Villa game. Because 91% passing accuracy in the position that he plays is kind of outrageous. For me anyway, he created 4 chances, 2 big chances, had 2 shots on target himself, 2 out of 3 dribbles. Okay, the crosses should be better, 1 out of 6. But I always say this about crosses. Crosses are not just about the ball, they're also about the receiver. And you can hit the best ball in the world. If the receiver messes it up, it will count as an incomplete cross, even though the cross was perfect. Long balls, 1 out of 2. Ground duels, 3 out of 5. Very, very strong performance. I think 8.5 is about fair. I think you could maybe push it up to 9 because I really did think he was great and he could have easily had a couple of assists. But yeah, I'll probably stay with an 8.5. Maybe you'll convince me otherwise of it, Jamie, if you think he
I think if Gallagher's a 9, Palmer's easily a 9. He controlled, if anything, a 9.5 for me. Like he does every single game, he controls everything. And I think one thing I'm a big fan of De Zerbi and how like structured his build-up is and everything. But one thing I will say with players like Palmer, I don't know if De Zerbi will get the best out of them because he wants everyone to be very positional with everything. But with Poch, he's kind of just like, you know what, Palmer, just go wherever you want and create for the team. And it's such a cheat code because he has such a good like eye for a pass. How many like through balls and like threaded balls he plays between the lines he does. And then because the opponents are so aware of this ability of his to like thread this pass through the lines, he can fake it and that's when he chops on his right and he skins so many people by pretending to do that little ball with his left foot. They're so scared of it and he just takes them down the right. And it's like kind of how Mars used to dribble, is very chop in and then you're scared of the left and chop out. It's such an effective way of dribbling, I think. So he has everything. I think just because he controlled everything, he got a goal, couple pre-assists. I think I would say 9 or a 9.5 for me.
You know what? You've convinced me. I'll also give him a 9. Let's give him that 9. He also had that over the top ball to Mudryk. That Mudryk, ended up in the 1-on-1 with the keeper.
Yeah,
that should have been. So that's automatic. That should arguably be 2 assists for him. The one to Gallagher, the one to Mudryk. So there you go. I think it is fair. Let's take a little bit of a slide down first before we go on to Madueke and Jackson. Let's go into Mudryk. How would you summarize it, Jamie? Because for me, he had a good game, but not a great game, and that's just it. I don't think he did a single thing wrong today, other than not scoring, like especially the one big chance that he had. But otherwise, I think it wasn't a case of where I thought, you messed up here, you messed up there. It was like, okay, not as involved as many of the other players, but still good in build-up play when he, was building triangles with like Cucurella and Badiashile or Gallagher. It worked. He kept the ball, played nice passes, got himself involved. Again, I still want just more runs in behind, especially the position that he's playing at the moment. He's so unmarked on the left often, and we have the ball over on the right. I feel like every time Palmer gets the ball, Mudryk should make a darting run towards the box because Palmer will find it. Like just like in the in-swinger for Palmer, like it's even Madueke, to be honest, like that in-swinger left foot pass is just perfect for the way we play at the moment. So much space for Mudryk out on the left. Just run. You're going to outpace anyone. Just make a run. Sometimes you'll be offside. Sometimes they won't pass it. But if you just make that same run 6-7 times every game, they will find you 3 times at least. And then if that happens to him every game, he will also get more experience in front of goal. Because the problem with him is when he is in front of goal, he only happens to be in front of goal once every 1 or 2 games. So like, it's not like he has obviously training, but in terms of the pressure of in the game, he doesn't really have the luxury of repetition because he only gets 1 or 2 chances max. It's not like Palmer sometimes has had games where he scored 3 goals, but he could easily have scored 4 or 5 because he had other chances that he even messed up on. But because he has so many others and scores those, no one cares, you know? So I think if just Mudryk manages to get himself into those positions a bit more often, he's good. And great corners from him. Very true. We score from one of them? Well, in that, Thiago Silva had it across back to Noni, so that was a corner from him. And the Chalobah header, that was across from Mudryk. And also Mudryk cut it back to
Madueke
once in the first half. Yeah, exactly. That could have easily been a goal as well. So maybe even you know what? I'm actually going to give him a 7.5. What are you going to give him, bro? You can obviously go.
I was going to say 7.5. Like I've always said with Mudryk, like he has so much talent there, but positionally, he's a very confused player. You don't want him to. You need his instructions to be very simple. That's why the whole time I've been like stressing about we need to keep our wingers right. With Mudryk, you just need to say you hug the touchline and you make vertical runs. You're that fast. Like every time Palmer gets the ball, you start running down and you make that run. And I don't think he does it nearly enough. Like there was that one chance he got through and goal with, where he made that run, but he can do that like 20 times a game, and it's cheat code with his pace. So Poch just needs to keep his instructions very simple with that, because when he comes inside, he's just a bit, confused. I do feel a bit bad for him because Palmer drifts right. We have a lopsided back 3, so Chalobah supports a bit more as well, and Caicedo is a bit more technical. So everything is kind of geared towards like playing towards the right, but
usually we have Enzo on his left, and it still didn't help. So,
but yeah, I'd like to see that with the new structure. If Enzo helps him out a little bit more. But yeah, normally right now it's kind of like we build up and we play through the left, and if Mudryk can find that switch play towards the right, then we're quite effective with that. But I do have a bit of sympathy with that. One thing he does need to get better at, which really annoys me, is when he just receives like a simple short pass, and every single time he wants to take like a first touch to kind of take it away from the defender that's about to press him. So he takes that first touch with his back to goal into the middle of the pitch, and it becomes like very obvious for the defender to read, like when he does that every single time. Like,
and also that first touch is quite often like a little heavy as well. Then
exactly, when you're not very crisp with it, like Hazard would be or whatever, you can't do it, and he makes it too obvious. Like if you compare it to Madueke, like what he's so good at is, which is underrated, is when he gets a simple ball like that, he just puts his back into the man and he gets his body in between the man and the ball, and he protects it very well, and then he just keeps the play going. Mudryk, I rarely see him just stick his back into the person closing him down, holding him off, and then kind of pick a pass after that. It's always like he's trying to do too much with the first touch. Sometimes he needs to just learn that skill from Madueke, to be honest, have some coaching.
He does. I've got a bit of a controversial shout, not that one that I'm 100% serious about, but especially if we end up selling Cucurella, which obviously I don't think we should, but maybe there's a case to be made that we should see if we can get Zinchenko out of Arsenal, purely so someone can actually tell Mudryk in a language he understands. Zinchenko will know. Like, he's done Pep and Arteta. He knows tactics. So, like, imagine if Zinchenko is the inverted left back and he's in midfield, which Zinchenko can do probably equally as well as Cucurella. Imagine if Misha had him. That would probably help Misha a lot. Obviously, not maybe the best idea to sign someone just because of that. But, maybe it's worth considering.
See, he's very good at that role. It's just, again, he's pretty poor and weak defensively, which is why he's started coming into this role. He's actually a midfielder, right? But yeah, that's my only worry. He's like nowhere near as good defensively as Cucurella is. But yeah, maybe he can help Mudryk.
He's not playing every game at Arsenal, so maybe it's possible. Even if he doesn't play, maybe he can just tell Mudryk from the sidelines, from the bench. I don't know. But we go on to Noni Madueke. And personally, honestly, I felt that Dimitar was very harsh on him. I thought Madueke was one of, if not our best player today. I thought he was really good. I would give him at least a 9. I'm even tempted to say 9.5, but I'll see what you say. But yeah, for me, he was brilliant. 93% passing accuracy, again, in his position is crazy. Okay, 2 out of 5 dribbles doesn't sound that great, but honestly, I even doubt that stat, to be honest. It felt like he got past his man on every occasion. 2 out of 3 successful crosses is strong. 2 out of 2 long balls. 4 out of 9 ground duels is good enough, at least. Got himself a goal. Okay, there wasn't much to that finish, but still had to finish it. The layoff to Jackson was also almost redemption for the whole penalty drama against who was it? United? No. Was it Everton? Yeah, Everton. Again, so even that whole drama, like, it's because it was obviously him and Jackson fighting for it. Okay, it was against Palmer, but still, they were fighting over it still. So the fact that he laid it off to him and they're celebrating together, I think is also a bit of a sign of learning. I don't know if I'm interpreting a bit too much into that now, but Madueke could have easily scored that himself, and I would have backed him to score it himself as well. But he still chose to lay it off. And, you know, when I think about how many times multiple players this season, whether it's Sterling, whether it's Palmer, whether it's Jackson himself, have not laid passes off when they should have done and it cost us goals, I was just so happy to see just a simple one, especially showing the others. Like, look how easy it is. Look how happy everyone is. Just lay it off. It's a tap-in. Do you know what I mean? But yeah, I just thought it was really, really good. The only thing that maybe I thought he overdid a couple of times, especially Palmer, maybe some others too, like, gave him the ball in good positions, like at the edge of the box, and he tried to shoot first time, maybe a couple times too many. But, you know, and if he takes a bit more time, could maybe even get a second goal. But still, like I said, I will say at least 9. We'll see what you say, but obviously Dimitar's 8.5 will probably make it a bit difficult to give him a 9.5 overall, but I think a 9 is at least warranted. What do you think about, what did you make of Noni today, bro?
I think, yeah, I think I would have said 9.5, to be honest. Since the new structure change and him just being allowed to stay on the touchline, he's arguably been our most dangerous player, maybe bar Palmer, obviously. But the amount of times we get him into 1v1s now, and I think even like the first goal, simple things like that. Before it would be he'd be inside, and that would be to Gusto, and there's no 1v1 threat there when a fullback gets there, and so they just kind of let Gusto or a fullback get there, and they don't have to worry about it because the run's coming from deep as well. So if you have the wingers actually pinning them back and starting the attack from much higher up than a fullback, it's so much more dangerous. And even the first goal, it's just simple. He kept the width and the ball came out to him, and he checks inside and he puts it across, and it obviously like deflects towards, and it's quite lucky. But just having that threat is not, even that ball there is just not.
I think you're mixing goals up now. That first goal was Palmer. Madueke's goal was the header after Thiago lays it across to him in the box.
Yeah. I mean, just how we got the Palmer. The ball came out to him out wide. He puts he kind of has that threat to dribble down the right, but then he's also very good at coming inside.
I think he then said Jackson right, and then it bounced from Jackson to Palmer.
Exactly. Yeah, but it's just like, it's nice to see just how much more threat we have when we have the wingers out there, because before I haven't seen any of that all season, to be honest. With the fullbacks holding it, it's just so much more effective. And yeah, I think he's been one of the main reasons of our really good form the last 3 games. He's super dangerous. The way he cuts inside and makes those runs and gets a shot off, like, kind of,
it's almost like Robin. They know what he's doing.
Yeah,
they can't do anything about it.
You can't stop it, because he threatens them down the right as well. You need, as a winger, you need to be able to go both ways, and because they're scared, because they know he can take them to the touchline as well. That kind of dual threat. He's been super good for me. I'd say 9.5.
Yeah, you know what? Sorry, Dimitar, you've left, so we're ignoring your 8.5. 9.5 it is. He also created 6 chances as well, by the way, which is kind of crazy.
Everything, I like the whole kind of rotation he has between Palmer as well. I think it's really confusing the other team. Like, sometimes Madueke is inside and Palmer's holding the width. Like, a lot of the times they kind of rotate between that. And that run he made for the Chalobah goal, that run is so effective. Like when you're holding the width up like that, and you make that inside run, and if you can time it right, as you can see, you just go straight through on goal. It was a very, very smart run.
Absolutely. I could not agree more. Shout out you, Noni Madueke. Big up yourself. I'm not sure if I said it already or if I only thought it, but he also created 6 chances, which is really, really good going. Jackson, now officially, he got himself not only 2 goals, but actually also an assist. I'm not sure quite how he gets the assist for that Palmer goal, if I'm honest. It felt more like he got tackled and then the ball fell to Palmer. I'm not sure how that's an assist, but, fair enough, I guess. He'll take it for sure. But even outside of that, I thought he was really good again. He just, obviously today he scored 2 goals. The first one was obviously super simple, but the second one was that kind of goal that he usually messes up. Today he didn't mess it up. So that was good to see. And yeah, he just does so well as a, what's the best word for it? I don't want to say false 9 because he's not playing as a false 9. But in terms of the link up, the hold up, the dropping deep, the making runs to create spaces, he's unbelievable at that. I genuinely don't believe that there is many, obviously there's a few, but I genuinely don't believe there's many players or many strikers that do what he does there better than him. Now, surely at finishing, plenty of players better than him. Multiple. But at that, if you take the finishing out of it, and I know he's a striker, so the finishing is his main job. I get that. But still, outside of the finishing, I think he's really, really top-notch. Obviously, there was rumors yesterday that we have opened discussions with Napoli over Victor Osimhen, and that apparently we want to pay them 80 to 90 million euros, plus Lukaku, plus maybe a young player. Honestly, I'm not so sold on it. At the beginning of the season, I was more so, but first of all, Osimhen didn't have a great season. Now, I know Napoli overall didn't have the best season, but still, Osimhen didn't have the best season, didn't have a good AFCON at all. Who won the AFCON in the end?
I forgot.
Was it Nigeria? Or did they lose? I think Ivory Coast actually won.
They lost in the final, right?
Yeah. Ivory Coast won it in the final. There you go. By the way, Liverpool 3-0 up against Spurs now. Spurs literally do get battered everywhere they go. But yeah. So I'm not fully sold on this Osimhen situation, especially if you buy Osimhen for crazy money. It's all well and good. Jackson doesn't need to necessarily start every game. But if you get Osimhen will start every game because of the price tag. Even if he does badly, you're not going to see Jackson come in if Osimhen's out of form. Because Osimhen was so expensive then, and he's such a big player, that he would get started every time. So Jackson would either play as a second striker, as a left winger, or only when Osimhen every now and again gets a rest, or is suspended, or is injured. So also then you have 2 African strikers, which if you have an AFCON, you all of a sudden have no strikers. So that's not ideal, is it? So yeah, I'm not so sold on the Osimhen idea, especially Nicolas Jackson today did break Didier Drogba's numbers from his first Chelsea season in all competitions. Nicolas Jackson now has more goals than Drogba did in his first season. Am I saying Nicolas Jackson is or will ever be better than Drogba? No. And obviously when Drogba had his first season, you still had Gudjonsson there, so Drogba didn't start every game and wasn't the main guy every game, while Jackson is. But even still, he's got 12, 13 Premier League goals out of 13, I think. That's good for your first season. Only Diego Costa and Tammy Abraham have had better first seasons at Chelsea in the last 20 years. The only 2 strikers that have scored more goals. And Jackson might still catch Tammy because Tammy got 15 in his first season. So yeah, there you go. I would give him a 9. What would you give him, Jamie?
Yeah, I would give him a 9 as well. I think I've always said, if you're going to go down this route, and the amount he's shown to give this team, I think it'd be absolutely insane to sign someone like Osimhen for 100 mil. I'm all for giving a young striker competition, but that's not competition. That's
the only player we should be signing realistically is Ivan Toney. He's a dickhead, and that's why I have my issues. But outside of his personality, you could not be more perfect than Toney. Apparently, he's not that expensive. He's experienced. He's a bit older. Perfect, no?
Yeah, and he's a different profile. Someone who can maybe come on. I was just thinking someone even a Giroud that gives you a different option. Not Giroud now, but how he was.
The problem is which Giroud type striker is there now other than Giroud? I can't think of one, honestly.
There's not. There's not.
Yeah, Toney is probably the closest thing to it. Obviously, Toney is nowhere near.
I would agree with Toney. I would say if you can get someone anything above 60 million is kind of disrespectful to him. I think if you sign a big money striker above 60 million, you're going to get a situation where he's immediately going to start speaking to his agents, and he's going to be like, you know what, I've just experienced a full season in the Premier League. I have a very good goal
unless
scoring
we're going to
record.
use him on the wing more regularly. That's the only way. But
I just wouldn't. He provides so much as a kind of target link up guy running into channels. Like, why would you want to put him on the wing?
And we haven't even seen Jackson with Nkunku, how that could go. We haven't even seen that.
The whole plan was for Nkunku to take the goal scoring pressure off him. So
exactly, because if Jackson has someone around him, a bit like Palmer has been anyway, but you know, Nkunku maybe even more so and a bit closer to Jackson. Like the link-up play of Jackson with the finishing of Nkunku should, in theory, be goals galore, really.
Exactly. That's how I see it. That's the vision of the board, and I think they just have to stick with it and stop. Don't crumble under the pressure. You talk about saving money through homegrown sales. Keep all these players. We've already spent $1 billion. We don't need to spend much more. If you're going to put any money into anything, put it into sorting out the medical team and getting these current players.
And the centre back now that Thiago's leaving, but
yeah, exactly. Maybe a decent centre back extra, but if you can get a decent medical team that keeps Fofana fit, there's your replacement.
You don't even need that. Yeah, absolutely. You're right. You're right. But just quickly, by the way, Jackson also created 4 chances today. Not only did he score 2, he also created 4. 3 out of 5 successful dribbles, 6 out of 10 ground duels, 1 out of 1 aerial duel. He won a tackle as well. No, stop talking about Lukaku, for fuck's sake. Stop mentioning his name, please. But yeah, big up Jackson.
But to be honest, I hate Lukaku, and I don't want him back because I think he's such an arrogant.
He's just a bad vibe. That's the main
He's
problem.
a bad vibe. But if there was a guarantee that he wouldn't be a bad vibe, and we've already paid him, get him back on a free, perfect.
Yeah, no, of course, and I think we'd all agree with that, really,
Jackson,
right? In principle.
Yeah, it is a different profile to Jackson as well. That's kind of he is kind of the perfect candidate, you know, for that.
He is a bit older nowadays as well. The problem is Lukaku will lose his shit every time he sits on the bench. So, you know, he's already a problem just from that perspective. But yeah, we did make actually 5 subs today, which doesn't happen that often. Unfortunately, not like Achimpong, but obviously because Gustav was back, you know, you can only hope for so much. The first 2 subs was Kasadai and Nkunku coming on for Madueke and Mudryk. And then we had Thiago Silva, I guess, after his injury, being replaced by Dizazi. Gusto making his comeback from injury for Chalobah. And Gilchrist late on in the last minute came on for Cole Palmer. And obviously, again, Nkunku finally back. Did you see anything from Nkunku? I'll be honest, bro. I didn't notice him that much. I noticed a few loose touches. I noticed one situation where he could have either gone for goal or done something better. He tried this weird outside of the foot pass, which just he passed it straight into the defender, so that was a bit poor. But then again, he's been injured essentially the whole season, so like I can't exactly be mad that he isn't perfect the second he comes off the bench, obviously. So I wouldn't like give them any ratings, but if there's anything you want to say about him or any of the subs, please do.
No, yeah, he looked like a player. He hasn't played all season. That's all you can really say. But yeah, nothing really notable, I don't think. I will say I don't think Kasadai is one of those players who will ever have a future here. Maybe I'm being very harsh, but
I agree though.
I just think there's players like Santos and like Hutchinson. Like most of our scouting has been unreal. They're all getting like player of the month at their current clubs, you know.
Kasadai was doing all right until we ruined his loan at Leicester, and who knows? Maybe
I think
you know, like Hutchinson didn't have a particularly brilliant start at Ipswich, didn't play all the time and stuff. But the longer the season went on, the more time he got, because that's often how it goes for loanies. Loanies need to settle in; they're young. So the second half of the season is usually where loanies can shine more, and that's when we ripped Kasadai out of Leicester. So who knows what he could have done?
Elliot has just scored an absolute banger, by the way.
Fair play. 4-0, flipping out. Makes our 2-0 win against Spurs look bad. Come on, Spurs, you know. But yeah, I mean, Kasadai, to be fair to him, he had 7 out of 7 passes today. What I like about him is that he's massive and he's really good in the air, and we literally don't have a single other midfielder. Even I guess Ugo Chukwu is also tall, but I haven't really seen him be particularly good in the air. He's just tall, seemingly.
Honestly, I feel like he'd be like better as like a like the only thing I'd see in him is like a route to kind of like striker, you know.
He's like the new Marwan Fellaini, isn't he?
Yeah, exactly. Get him on if we need to just spam
Yeah,
cross.
if we need a goal, last 10 minutes, chuck Caicedo on up front.
Exactly. Yeah, that's the only way I can kind of see it for him. But other than that, he's going to go on loan again. There's too many other youngsters in his position that we have on the books that are just much better, in my opinion.
We're also quite likely to, well, I don't know about how likely, but there's obviously this talk that we might be looking at. Who's that Fulham player that we're apparently interested in? I forget his name again.
By the centre back.
Yeah, no, exactly. I'm not saying that will be instead of Caicedo, but that's another very tall player coming in, which makes the necessity for Caicedo maybe a little bit smaller, I suppose. But yeah, honestly, he had never played a professional game by the time we signed him, and he was already 19. And I'm not saying that's necessarily the worst thing in the world, but if you're 19, or was he already 20 maybe? Maybe he was, because he's 21 now. We signed him last summer, didn't we? Or did we sign him 2 summers ago? No, last summer. So he must have been 20. So he was already 20 and hadn't played a single first team, like professional game of football. That already told me, well, he's never making it. Because if you've not played a professional game by 20, well, then you're not going to be a superstar. Yeah, I'm not saying he will not have a decent career in football. I'm sure he will. But not at this kind of level, I don't think.
Yeah.
But, there you go.
Hard to say, but like, yeah, he needs we bringing him back from loan was just kind of just bad for him.
We should have just signed someone, or just, well, not rush Ugochukwu back unnecessarily. It's quite simple. But anyways, let's finish it off, mate. Pochettino, Dimitar gave him a 9. I know you're not his biggest fan, but would you still agree with that on the basis of today?
Yeah, I can't. This is what I mean. Like, I've hated him all season because he's never put out a system that suited our players. His system was just so confusing. It misprofiled everyone, and it just made me think, do you even understand football? Like, I don't understand you. But he's finally kind of figured it out. So how can I follow him? You know, all we wanted as fans for this season was a way of playing and a system that we can kind of get behind. And because none of us expected us to be challenging for titles and trophies or whatever, but we just needed some kind of way of playing that we could be like, okay, he's going somewhere, he's doing something. And to be fair to him, he's done that finally after 9 months. And you know, I can't follow him. All I can say is, like, for me, he looks, unless he comes out and says something like, I'm still learning the players, he needs to take some kind of accountability, because the proof is in the pudding. You know, like the last 3 games, he changed the system and we play a million times better. It's not like, how more obvious can it be to anyone that a manager has an impact? And he's kind of acted like, what can I do? The players are inexperienced. The players are this. Everything is this. And it's just like, you need to come out and say, okay, I'm still learning. I have stuff to improve. And then I could maybe be like, okay, he's taking accountability, and
I agree with
shows that you've grown, you know?
No, I could not agree more. I think the lack of self-accountability from him was one of the things that annoyed me most about him this season, honestly.
If he doesn't do that, we have no belief that he actually realizes
see that something isn't working and try to change it. Exactly.
Exactly, because like down the line, what for? Like, he could be thinking right now, oh my God, I'm a genius. I've just figured out how to make these players play well, you know? Like, maybe he's just like that, like, arrogant. I have no idea. Until he takes accountability, I won't know that, and I won't trust him in the future to make future decisions, you know, as a manager. So he needs to come out and realize what he's done wrong, and what he's done wrong this season, and own up to it. And then I'd be, honestly, I'll put my hands up and be like, okay, fine, you're doing the right things now, we'll continue with you. But unless he does that, then I can't be fair like that.
No, exactly. And I agree. Now, obviously, I know you like De Zerbi. I'm a little bit less sure about De Zerbi. I like De Zerbi's principles. And also there was this clip going around of Kevin Prince-Bowen saying everything he said about De Zerbi sounds fantastic. I have a few issues, but one of my issues, and that's a silly one, and I know, Jamie, you'll probably laugh, but I think he's too small. I know that sounds ridiculous, but he's a small little Italian man. When things go badly, there will not be enough respect. He's too small. Like, imagine De Zerbi trying to shout in like Koval or De Zerbi's face. He's barely like touching their belly button.
He's
Do you know what I
quite
mean?
scary looking, though. You know,
He might
Italians
be
can
scary
have
looking,
the
but man,
kind of
he's like 5 foot tall, man. He's too small to demand respect. I can't lie.
Yeah.
I like his principles, but he hasn't helped himself like that as much. Whether he's good or not, you know, the way this season has gone for Brighton, I think for Chelsea from a PR perspective, it would just first of all get another one from Brighton looks bad, and with the season he's had towards the end, that also looks bad. So I just don't like. I think if we ever want the Serbi, we need to let him go elsewhere first and get him in 3 or 4 years. Not now, is my perspective anyway. Because I just don't think the owners can afford to get another Brighton guy without not that they care about what the fans think, but if they ever want the fans on board, I don't think they can get another one from Brighton, regardless of whether it's the Serbi or anybody else. Just don't get another one from Brighton. I just think it's too much of a bad look. That's all I'll say. But yeah, I will agree with the 9 on Poch. You could argue a 10. Like, what else can you do, really? Like, it's fantastic. Like, picked a good team.
Maybe just get on the subs a little bit earlier. Maybe give Caicedo a rest. Like, Caicedo looked really tired at some points. I was just thinking, like, we're 5-0, I'd put Caicedo in midfield or something and get Caicedo off, just a bit earlier. But to play full 90, I'm just a bit like, come on.
Yeah, no, I do agree. I do agree with that. And you could have just brought Caicedo on for him and left Madueke on.
Exactly, yeah.
Or was Tyreek George on the bench today? I don't know. But you could have brought Caicedo on for Caicedo and still taken Madueke off. It's not like, anyone would have stopped you. But hey, it is what it is. So 9 it shall be. I want to finish it on one little tweet here, which is another sign of quite how good we were today. We had 4.21 XG today without a penalty. And as Liam Twomey says, this is by some distance Chelsea's highest non-penalty XG of the Premier League season. And honestly, I'm surprised that West Ham only have 1.13, considering they hit the bar 3 times. But hey, there you go. Absolutely brilliant. I'm very, very happy about today. I genuinely do not think today could have gone much better. We've got players back from injury. Nkunku is back. Gusto is back. Thiago Silva was all of a sudden back. Poch-Ball was on the bench as well. Okay, remained unused, but was on the bench too. So that's fantastic. We won 5-0, kept the clean sheet. The only thing that could have made today even a bit better, I guess, was either Mudryk or Nkunku scoring. But otherwise, what more can you really ask for? Hopefully, United drop a point against Palace tomorrow. Then we're seriously in that 6th, in that race for 6th and potentially Europa League, which would be nice. Like, I hate that we're in a situation where we're almost going to celebrate Europa League if we do make it. But Conference League is just one of those, I'm like, other than that, it could be there could be a few fun places to go to as an away fan. It's very uninteresting. Like, even for our young players, that level isn't high enough for them to like how we did Hudson Odoi in that Sarri Europa League season. Yeah. The Conference League is too low of a level to even have much of a relevance for like the young players to like, okay, you've done well here, now you get a chance in the Prem. The level will be so much lower that just because they do well against them doesn't mean anything. But that is a valid point. It's arguably a free trophy, and we would be the first team in history to win all 3. So there are a few positive spins that you could put on it. But I also think in terms of the development of the club under the new owners, it would be much more beneficial for us financially, obviously, but also from just the standards and the level of challenge for the younger players standpoint. The Europa League would be big. And yeah, I mean, someone said it there. We are 2 wins away from Spurs, and they were Champions League contenders until a couple of weeks ago. Like, without a few, like, it's not even that we weren't good enough to reach that. We just bottled it a few too many times to reach that. Like, sure, we were bad in some games, like against Arsenal, like against Liverpool, like against Newcastle. But even if we lose those games badly the way we did, if we just don't bottle it against Wolves, against Sheffield, against Burnley, against Wolves twice even, like, there's more than I've just mentioned, then we're easily 5th and maybe even battle Villa for 4th. Like, I'm not saying we deserve that, but we could have easily been there. And
honestly, if we played this structure this whole season, this is why this squad has always been a top 4 level squad, in my opinion. And I've said that since the start. And I honestly think if he had this kind of structure from the start of the season, we're easily better than Villa, like easily. And the quality shows every time we play them, really. Exactly, the quality shows when we do play them. Our squad is levels above them, but we were played in such a weird way the whole season that we didn't really get to see it until now, which is why.
I mean, I do still think that even if we did play this system all season, there would have still been days where the inconsistencies of having a very
Sure.
young team would have still hurt us. We would have made some errors that cost us goals. We would have missed too many chances. That would have still happened. But I agree. We would have, on average, had a better rest defense, conceded a few less goals, had more control of games. That leads to less mistakes because you feel under the individuals feel under less pressure. I agree. Now, we touched on it earlier as well. None of us had ever seen Cucurella play like this. So it's almost fair enough that he didn't see this by September. Right? But he got injured in January. But by November, December time, I feel like there should have come a moment where you're like, actually, Cucurella can do a few things here. Exactly. But then again, it's tough sometimes to judge the manager because the same with Martin. Like, we don't know for sure if he wasn't told, don't use Martin that much. We're planning to sell him. Like, maybe this is an instruction. We like that could very much be possible. And you never know what was the plan with Cucurella until Chilwell got injured. Because the fact that Poch-Ball played left back at the beginning of the season and Cucurella wasn't even used, even though he was fit, and now Cucurella plays every game and is our best player nearly all the time, or one of them, just sounds a little bit like, was he told not to use him? Because it's just weird. Because by that logic, he could easily be playing Badiashile left back now, but he's not. So did he just realize it, or did things change in terms of who he was supposed to use or not? I'm not saying that is the case. I'm just saying it could be the case, and we just don't know. I don't know where you stand on that, Jamie, or what do you think of that theory?
I don't think that would ever be the case, especially for a new manager coming into a squad. You're never going to get a board just saying don't use players.
I think for Martin, I think it was. Did you hear what Martin's dad said? He didn't say a word about Poch. He only spoke about the owners. That doesn't make me think, the mean manager never gave him a chance. Do you know what I mean?
But it is easy to just hit on the whole system rather than targeting one individual, and they're not going to be
obviously. But if Martin felt it was only Poch that didn't give him a chance, his father would probably see the similar.
I don't think he would have. I disagree there. I think from pre-season it was evident that Poch didn't see him as a fullback. He was playing
I agree completely.
And all these, he did anything in his power to not play him at fullback, despite two left backs being injured, and he didn't find solutions. This is why I'm annoyed. You could have found solutions to put him as a fullback, by inverting him into this.
I agree.
But
again, I agree with every word you say. I'm just saying I'm not as sure as you as that he fully didn't want to. Obviously, he played attack in preseason. I get that, and it makes it look like that. But that was also before we signed Palmer. But Ziyech was already gone, so we didn't really have enough wingers. Again, I don't want to make excuses for Poch. I'm just saying it's a possibility. That's all I'm saying. But yeah, I think it's about time we leave this one here. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you haven't already, please be sure to hit that like button. Subscribe if you haven't done that yet, as the comment says as well. That would be massively appreciated. Do check out Jamie. Link is down in the description. CFC Deep Dive on YouTube and on Twitter. Check him out. Give him a follow. Drop him a sub. Why don't you go do that? That would be fantastic. Shout out to Dimitar as well for coming on. But yeah, ladies and gentlemen, thank you guys for watching. Up the Chelsea. Upwards and onwards. What a day. what a day of football. And yeah, we will see you next time.